Hey, you guys, welcome back to the podcast. I am super stoked to share with you today's episode, all on our trip to Peru and the incredible time that we had spent there for almost a full month, which that's the longest time we've ever traveled for in a very long time. And we were there throughout the holidays, which is also pretty incredible and very different too than the previous years and what we typically do being around our friends, our families. So it was a lot, right? Being in a foreign country during the holidays, let alone there for an entire month. And so there was so much that took place. My husband is Peruvian, so we do have that. Okay. So we weren't like entirely alone. We did have some family and my husband's cousins. And we're very sociable people. So we intend to make friends wherever we go. Which was the case even up until the last moment before going to the airport, which was pretty cool. And they happened to be from Florida. Like super what like how does that even happen? But we had an amazing time. This was, full disclosure, supposed to be a his and her episode where we both got to share what took place. But let me tell you something. There was one, two, three, four more than I can count times that we dedicated to record this episode, even in Peru. And I'm going to tell you that entire story because something really significant happened that day. Every single time we sat down to record or dedicated the time to record, it just wasn't happening. Even the time we did record, we didn't like it. And we were like, okay, we know we can do better. So with that said, I was like, you know what? I am just going to record it solo. My husband travels for work, so we have time constraints that we work with. And then our son got sick again coming back from daycare. So that means that we only get to work with nap times or evening time. And the time just kept dwindling, like it kept disappearing. So I was like, you know what? I'm trusting that maybe I'm just going to do this one solo and he's going to jump in and share his take at another time. But you guys, the Peru episode had to come out because it's just hot right now. We just got back. We're still on this amazing high and it needed to come out for you guys. So I know many of you have been asking about, a lot of questions surrounding Peru, or maybe you've been curious to want to go. I feel like Peru is one of those places on people's bucket lists, just like Greece is. And it's 100% true. Peru is one of those places that has so much ancient culture and history. You have to go. It is one of those places you have to go. The food as well is out of this world. I mean, it is world renowned, their food. Um, infusing multiple cultures, not just the Peruvian culture of, it being in Latin America, but there was also a major influence of the Japanese culture in their food. So that's where ceviche was invented because of the sushi. And so their food is top notch. And then their landscape is just super incredible because they have the desert, they have the jungle, they have the Andes. There's just so much going on, right, in their country. And then, of course, Machu Picchu, which we did not get to go this trip to Machu Picchu, but we do intend on going the next time we go. And just also food for thought, because of where they are in the world, like location wise, their seasons are opposite of ours. So the time of year that we went in December, through early January, it's actually them leading into summer, which means into the rainy months. So we personally didn't want to go and risk the chance of us getting there and it raining. So we decided to hold off and go another time of year. But it was still very special. There were so many things that took place. And so I'm going to start diving into some of those things that we did, the things that came up for us, a lot of revelations, like full circle moments, as I've mentioned. And the best part is that we traveled with our son, who is almost a year and a half old, and our 4-year-old Cavapoo. So we had a full house. And the nice thing is when you travel for that amount of time, it feels so much different when you're not in a hotel. So we invested our first piece of real estate, which was very special to me being in my husband's home country, Peru. because he was so close to his country, like I am to mine. Like I love being Greek, I love my culture and keeping those traditions alive. And he hadn't been in touch with his culture for a while. And so we decided to invest in our first piece of real estate, it being in Peru. This was our first time staying in our apartment. It was beautiful. I sent him on a mission a couple months prior to go get it furnished and everything we need to go and stay and be comfortable. And when we arrived, I was like, "You did good, babe. You did good." um, and so when you're in your own little space, it feels more like a staycation. You're comfortable, you have your coffee, you can go down and get some groceries, and just be more comfortable. And the most incredible part about our apartment is two things. One, it has the most amazing sunset view because Lima faces the west coast on the Pacific. And the building that we bought in, we thought we were going to be in a completely different position than the one we actually got. And that was just us not really knowing because it's still under construction. We live in Florida. It's happening in Peru. We didn't really, we didn't really realize, where the position was of the unit. And we thought it was going to be like a diagonal unit kind of facing, some of the water, but not really like center view of the water. And when we arrived to get our keys earlier in the year to sign for the apartment, we noticed that, first of all, we were directly in the center of the building and had the most gorgeous view of the water and, of course, the sunset. So every day we got to experience that, and it was so beautiful and so relaxing. I never knew that Peru had gorgeous sunsets. I just didn't know. And so now I know and got to experience that. And it reminded me a lot of my upbringing because I did grow up on the west coast of Florida and I did have the sunsets there. And so it was just reminding me a little piece of those early years, that were really reminiscent and wonderful to think about. And then the next part that was even more like, wow, total, God, universe confirmation moment. So again, this was a year ago. We went and got our keys to sign for the place. And I noticed the very first thing, okay, before we even walked in the door was our apartment number. And I like stopped in my tracks and was like, no way. It was the date of our wedding. Like, how do you even make that up? The apartment number was the date of our wedding. So, and everywhere else but the United States, people date the date backwards. So they do the day of the month first and then the month. And the same way in Greece, too. So it just caught my attention like right away. And our wedding was coming up in 6 months from that point. And so our apartment number is 2306, which is the date of our wedding, June 23rd. And so, going back to stay there for the first time, it was just all the feels. It's like 6 months since the wedding now, and we're going back and we stayed and it was really, really lovely. Our place is also situated in a downtown location, very close, like 2 blocks from the boardwalk area. So we walked everywhere every day. It was like a thing. We just wake up and let's go for a walk. And you're on your little exploration, route. You don't know where the morning is going to lead you, whether it's to a new coffee shop or a cute little park. The parks there are absolutely beautiful in the way that they're maintained. And people actually utilize the parks. They go there with their picnics, with their lover or their friends, and they're having just a ball, enjoying the elements, actually working out in the parks, doing some exercise, sitting and watching the sunsets together, enjoying their coffee. It was so nice to see people actually enjoying the outdoors. I feel like here in the US, we can be cooped up a little bit too much sometimes. So that was really nice to see. And all of the kids that were playing at the playgrounds, which all times of day. I mean, there could be kids there, at 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. playing, like nonstop playing. So that was really fun. And our son enjoyed going to the parks and seeing the kids, and I enjoyed watching him play. And what he would do with the other little girls and boys, he would walk up to them and just hug them. Like literally walk up and hug the other children. And these kids were thinking, like, was he gonna like say tag you're it or do something kind of fun, And all of them would just look at me and go, Oh, like you just saw their heart melting themselves and they would hug him back. It was so cute. And then after like the fifth or sixth child he did that with, I was like, all right, I have to teach him some personal space because he can't just start walking up to people, hugging them. So that was really, really fun. Really just exploring all that there is to do within that Lima area, Miraflores area, Barranco area. And as you can see, my accent has also picked up tremendously. So while I was there, I was able to really expand my understanding of the language, which I feel like it's anywhere. When you immerse yourself, you're just going to start picking it up. And so that it was happening. It was happening. And I was really happy about it too. And then the food we were eating, we found our favorite food spots. And, we were trying different things. We went to the port and we got to go check out Callao, which is their port, and they had the most amazing ceviche. And we walked down this super cute street full of restaurants and salsa music, and they had these like pastel rainbow umbrellas covering the top, and it just made this like really cute Instagram photo, you guys, which I haven't posted yet. Maybe now that this episode is coming out, I will. And we really just enjoyed all the different little intricacies within the city of what it had to offer, right? Now, when it came to traveling outside of Lima to go see some of the, other areas and like Machu Picchu or other parts of Peru that you want to go and explore, like they have a lot of that to do and see. Um, it's a bit far away from the city. So either you're going to fly there to go to that specific region, or you're going to rent a car and drive, and it'll take you about a day or two to get there. So for us, we were really trying to see what we could go to with our little one, okay? Because we had a 1.5-year-old and we have our doggy with us too. So my husband found this amazing, super cute eco lodge cabin resort in the central jungle of Peru. And so we were trying to figure out what are we going to do for Christmas? Like this is such a different kind of Christmas that we're experiencing together. What are we going to do? So we rented a car, and my husband called up one of his guys that he knows there. He actually has worked with him before for some of his security stuff because my husband's in security, and he ended up um, delivering a rental car for us, and this rental car had no AC. Now, Peruvians and like most people around the world don't really care about AC because they just don't. But us Americans, we do. And we were like, okay, so you gave us a car that we're going to be driving in for the next 8 hours to the jungle with no AC. All right, cool. Can we do this? And I was like, you know what? I think we can manage. So we go to our favorite breakfast spot. We have our coffee, and when we get in the car to start our drive, we realize that none of the car chargers were working. So at this point, my husband operates on the three G's. If it doesn't feel good, smell good, or look good, it's probably not good. And that was it for him, for his intuition to be like, you know what? I'm not putting my family in this scenario because now it was a safety hazard. Let's say, our phones die in the middle of the jungle or in the middle of the mountains somewhere on our drive. We have no way of contacting the world and relying on one phone. So we drove to the nearest car rental place, and we sat there for an extra hour to get the whole new rental car. And we ended up leaving with a brand new, I think it was a Honda or something, but it was a brand like 0 miles. The plastic was still on the seat belts and the seats. And we had this beautiful car that we could then drive, to our destination. And let me tell you, we were thanking ourselves up and down because the drive took us through not just to the jungle, it took us through the highest paved altitude road in Latin America, which was over 15,000 feet up in the air. Okay, like extremely high. Now, mind you, we did have some preparations ahead of time that we made for us when it came to the altitude because we knew we'd be going through the mountains, the high altitude. We didn't realize it was going to be 15,000 feet up in the air. So we were drinking the coca tea, which is pretty much like everyone in the country drinks, right? From the coca plant. Now what they do to process and manufacture it into the cocaine aspect of it is one thing, but the actual plant in itself they use as a tea, and it's drank nation countrywide. So we had our coca tea, and we were suggested this herbal supplement as well that we took. So we were good, but I didn't really have anything that I could support for the baby. So he ended up getting altitude sickness, poor thing, and I was in the back with him, and so the ride there was a little wonky, right, with him getting sick and whatnot, but the views were absolutely beautiful. And to see the different types of terrain as uh, we were driving through, every hour the terrain changed. So we go from Lima, the city, and then you leave and you pass through the favelas and those very, those areas that are very, I don't want to say humble, because these are these are the areas that are extreme poverty, and it really makes you think about your life, what you want to be grateful for, and also what you complain about that you probably shouldn't. And so once you pass that, then you get into the Rocky Mountains, and you're just observing these gorgeous mountains, and some cattle and animals that you're seeing as well. And once you get through that, now the mountain and the landscape is changing to a bit more forest like. And then a couple more hours of that, you're literally in the mountains with the clouds up there. And we saw some alpacas running around, and some, herding dogs running around. It was beautiful. And of course, we're passing through all of the little small mountain towns and the mining towns, and we saw the mines. And so the drive in itself was absolutely part of the journey. And I'm so glad we did that. Finally, we're getting to the jungle. And at this point, it was really late in the evening. So we didn't get to see much until the next morning. And of course, on the drive back, and all the plants, and it wasn't really forest anymore. It was jungle, and it was very moist and wet, and a lot of rivers streaming down across the mountain and the road, because of how much moisture collects right in the air from all the rain that comes down in that area. But I'll tell you this, it took us 11 hours to get there and 11 hours to get back. You guys, I am so grateful for how our community has been growing here that I decided to put together a weekly Elevate Your Life newsletter. This means every Tuesday, just like the podcast, you're going to receive an email in your inbox that is going to light you up, fuel your soul, and give you something yummy to digest alongside your coffee. This will include podcast updates, weekly reflections that are going to help guide you in your day or for your week, and of course, favorite finds that are making my life easier and more convenient. Let's face it, life as a mom is crazy, okay? Not to mention all the other duties we have on top. So if there's things that I've found that are making my life easier, I'm 100% going to be sharing them with you. So if that's you and you want to stay in the loop on all things podcast, things we have going on here, favorite finds, and juicy reflections, go to the show notes below to sign up to receive the first one this week. Love you all. We really loved immersing ourselves in it like that. So when we arrived to our Eco Lodge destination, this place is, I think, like 8 cabins. There are no TVs. Everything is solar powered. They have a, lunch menu, dinner menu. So you tell them what you would like, and they go and they get the food from the market and they cook it for you there. So you eat there. They have a bonfire pit, a little workout area, tons of little trails and hikes for you to just explore and enjoy the nature. There was a butterfly sanctuary, and they have zip lining as well. So it was beautiful to be surrounded by the nature. And first of all, I've always wanted to go to the jungle or some sort of rainforest. So this was definitely on my bucket list. So to be in that, it just gave me so much peace and relaxation. And that's really what our entire trip was about. It was about quieting the noise, slowing down our pace, and really just appreciating all of the presence that we're going to be having with our family during this time together. Because let's face it, life is busy. And if you're not careful, the pace of life is going to just drift you like the ocean. It's just going to take you, and you're not going to be in control of that tide. So, for the first time, we were in control of our own tide, and we were just stopping in that moment and just appreciating each other. And if we wanted to just go for a walk, and that's what we're doing for the day, that's what we're doing for the day. We got to experience a little mini nature walk in the jungle with one of the staff members who's very knowledgeable about the jungle. And he was telling us which plants were medicinal, which ones you can crack open and use as antibiotic or for inflammation. And then we continued along the path, and he was showing us, certain bugs that hide under certain leaves, and that all of the water that's coming down this stream, which really sounded like a waterfall full of white noise. And we could even hear it from our cabin. It was beautiful. That it's not actually water coming from the mountain. It is water that is collected from the tree trunks, and all of the water that gets pushed down the leaves from the rain, and all the moisture, right, that gets collected and it forms little streams, and then that stream then finds the bigger stream and it forms this bigger river. All this water is from the extra moisture coming out of the trees from all the rain. How cool is that? He also shared with us that there was, this beautiful tree, huge trunk, and this smaller trunk that was wrapped around the main trunk of the tree, and how this is from the bird's poop, that there's seeds in the bird's poop that forms and gets fertilized and basically forms a separate tree on the trunk, and it's called a tree killer because it eventually and envelops the whole trunk of the tree. It's just so many things, and understanding how the nature works and how much appreciation they have for it. And it gave us that much more appreciation for the nature ourselves, and how everything is an ecosystem, and we're here to work with it, not against it. We're here to appreciate it and what it provides for us and what we provide it, and just that symbiotic relationship, right, of nature. And I will say that's what we took away from being in the jungle, was how crazy it is when you are surrounded by basically nothing. Okay. I mean, you're just surrounded by plants, just the beautiful jungle of Peru. And yet you feel like you have the most peace you've ever experienced, but yet there's nothing around you. You don't have your house, you don't have your car, you don't have, nothing except the elements. But yet you feel so relaxed and so good and so in alignment, and like you have everything you need. And it got us thinking about how much we strive to fill our lives with so much stuff, but yet it doesn't fulfill us in any singular way more than the initial moment that we obtained that thing. And so there were so many moments of reflection there for us to ponder on and really digest. And we honestly looked at ourselves and we're like, yeah, we have some baggage we got to let go when we get back home. It really shifted our perspective on what it is that we value most. And for us at this point in our lives, it's each other, it's our presence, it's the bond, it's how close we are. It's not as much, what can we, obtain and continue to fill our lives with. It's how do we simplify our life and fill it with the things that mean the most to us. So, we didn't even get each other Christmas cards. We didn't get each other any presents, and that was intentional. We told each other, listen, do not feel guilty. There is nothing to feel bad about. This is our gift. This is the present for all of us, is to be present, amongst each other. That intention, I think, spilled over into Christmas Day, because the most spontaneous, incredible thing happened on Christmas Day in the jungle in Peru. So we made very good friends with the administrator there, And, she had her daughters there, which were absolutely lovely. And we really enjoyed connecting with her and learning more about her and her story and, the land and the town that was nearby and more about what she does and how she supports the women's community there. She also works with some of the midwives there and the doulas. And my brain started going and we started chit chatting. And I was so grateful. She also spoke some English so we could communicate a little easier. She mentioned that she does cacao ceremony. Told her, we would love that. And so it happened to be Christmas Day. Once we got all of our phone calls out of the way for the day, and sharing where we are with everybody and hope they're doing well and wishing them all our love. Baby went down for his nap and she came and we had a very intimate cacao ceremony. I'll call her a medicine woman, if you will, because she was just so grounded and so in tune with the elements and the story she shared of even the cacao itself, how it's processed. And if you don't know much about cacao, so cacao is chocolate basically, right? It's the original source of where chocolate comes from, the cacao plant. It's seed, and so you take it out of its shell and you then have to dry it out. So what they do is they dry it out with the sun for several months instead of putting it in the oven and baking it. Therefore, it's not touching any part of like a manufactured or any sort of like processed way. It's strictly by the elements of the earth. And so after it's dried out, they go and they muddle it. And they muddle it so it can be, ingested, digested, if you will. And typically has a bitter taste to it, which is why regular chocolate has a lot of sugar in it. Though the cacao she gave us, it was so sweet. Didn't have any bitterness really. And so she also shared that it was picked on her daughter's birthday, which her daughter is like a super beautiful old soul, has so much heart and compassion. And when I would see her walking around, she was caring for her little sister. I thought she had to be at least like 9 years old. Her daughter was 6, you guys, and had that much wisdom, intellect, and compassion. And I was like completely taken back and wowed. So this cacao ceremony, it is a heart opener. It allows for the flow of communication to take place and really allow what's been stuffed down there, suppressed, to open up and come out to the surface. Set our intentions, we drink our cacao, we were just lightly chit chatting, and all of a sudden it just started coming up for us. And then our body started moving, and we were just kind of like, flowing with what we were feeling. Again, it was very intimate. What I love about it was how she was just facilitating with us and helping us continue to get deeper and deeper and really just release, let go, and send love. So to release, you send love and gratitude, and that is what allowed us to really move through that, pain or whatever was coming up and transform it into gratitude and give thanks that it took place, right? Because whatever pain arises, it forms you into who you are. Without it, you wouldn't know who you would be. So if you're holding on to something and you have a lot of pain around it, a lot of shame or resentment around it, you have to give it thanks because of that shame or that resentment or that pain. You are who you are today. You're strong, you're resilient. You don't take, say, like, take no shit, but do no harm, or do no harm, but take no shit, right? Like, you have formed this part of you that knows how to stand in the world. And you have to give it thanks in order to let it go properly. So that's what my message was. And, also what came through to me was to be the love that I seek, to be the love that I seek. And I say that to you, and to be the love that you seek, because all of us at the end of the day are seeking something. And most likely, okay, if not 100% of the time, you can also give it to yourself first before you start seeking it outside of you, because everything starts within. Everything starts within. And so the most beautiful part towards the end of that ceremony, she lit these little um like floating candle thingies that are in a little aluminum container, like they last an hour. and our candles were still lit by the end, which meant that we had stayed within the mindset and were doing the work the entire time, which I thought was pretty cool. Because she goes, most times, if your candle blows out, that means you lost connection, right? So just these little things that in the culture, in the way that they practice their spirituality, that she was able to share with us, which was really cool. So we were feeling really good. And the craziest part was is that we did this all while the baby was napping. And it was so funny that he ended up napping the longest during that day over any other day the entire time we were there. Okay. Mind you, this past weekend he napped maybe 20 minutes each day, which is also why we couldn't do our his and her together. So need I digress more? Everything happens for a reason. And it just allowed us to really drop in. And it was so beautiful to have some of those revelations with Paula together. We then embarked on our journey back to Lima. And this time around, we were much more prepared. I ended up getting some nausea drops for Mikali, which he was just fine afterwards coming back on the trip. It did take us 11 hours to get back. But again, the drive was beautiful and we didn't mind it. And we just had about a week left of our trip before coming back to the States. And now we're preparing for New Year's. So we had a couple of ideas for New Year's, like New Year's in Lima, what are we going to do? And we can be your hype people, and we can also be like your stay at home chill kind of people. And ever since having a baby, you end up becoming more of a chill kind of person either way, because to make all the arrangements to go out somewhere, it's a lot of planning and a lot of trust involved too in who you're going to leave your child with. So that was the other thing. We had one of Pedro's cousins that could help us, with babysitting, but it's New Year's. I already anticipated, she would have plans, which, plans ended up being made. So we're like, you know what? It's all good. Plan B. We are going to just stay in, do takeout, relax, get a bottle of champagne. In Peru and some other countries, they actually have a tradition where they eat 13 green grapes as a sign of good luck. So they eat 12 grapes for the previous year and then a 13th grape, one for the new month of the new year. And you eat that at midnight, to celebrate the new year. And then if you're dry, you can toss 13 pennies. And this is the same thing for good luck and prosperity. So we didn't have the pennies, but we had the grapes. He found the grapes and got a bottle of champagne. So I will tell you, we had a very untraditional New Year's and it wasn't because we stayed in, okay? So this is going to go back to when we went to record our his and her the first time, okay, which was like a month ago now at this point, over a month ago. And I had got my period that day, so I wasn't in the right energy. When I tell you, like, something happened every single time, like the first time it was my cycle, and then, so on and so forth. So I said, listen, let's go for a walk, enjoy the day. I want to record when I'm in a good energy space. So we went for our walk and I realized that I forgot my jacket and, look for our keys to go back up and grab my jacket. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, I left the keys upstairs. We're locked out. Darn it. And we were always very good about, hey, you have the key? No. Okay, wait, where's the key? Hey, is the key in the stroller? Like, we're very good about that because if you lock yourself out, you have to call a locksmith basically. Like, there's no spare key. So it's exactly what we had to do. We had to call a locksmith, and again, this was prior to New Year's. Okay, so there's a reason for this. And a locksmith came. Luckily, he was there within 30 minutes, so it didn't eat up a lot of our day, which I know would like ruin somebody's day at that point, because we were already out for our walk and whatnot. And it took him maybe 20 minutes to get inside, so it was a very quick process. Okay, and then it occurred to me, I was like, something? If we're going to be Airbnb our place, which our place is now available on Airbnb, and people are going to be coming in and out, wouldn't it make sense to put a digital lock on the door like we have at our house? And it just makes life so much easier. I said, think about it. I've gotten locked out before, clearly, like right now, he's gotten locked out before at Airbnbs, and it's a hassle, for the host and for you. So that's exactly what we did. That day, he went online and we found this gorgeous, super sleek digital lock. And the next day after that, there was a gentleman that came to actually put the lock on our door. And he took the old one out, put the new one in, told us exactly how to use it. I'm like, look at this service. Like, this wouldn't happen in the US. They would just mail it to you and give you some directions and say, go check YouTube. So we had this gorgeous digital lock on our door now. Problem solved. Woohoo! Don't have to worry about getting locked out again. So now on New Year, midnight, we go out on the balcony. Now, mind you, again, like most places outside of the US, they don't have AC, like I mentioned. Um, and so everyone's sliding doors are open. And so you're hearing all the noise, this like, crazy annoying dog was barking the entire time. And I didn't want our dog to get stimulated by the barking or, our son to wake up in the other room because of the noise. And the fireworks are going off and the horns are honking and everyone's celebrating and cheersing and happy New Year. So we go out on the balcony and I close the door so the noise doesn't go inside. And Pedro just looks at me and he says, Eleana, did you just close the door? No. And immediately my gut, you guys, fell to the floor. Okay. My gut fell to the floor because on the balcony, when you close the door, it locks behind you. And our phones were inside, our dog is inside, our son is inside, and here we are on the 23rd floor on the balcony with nothing but 2 champagne glasses, a bottle of champagne, and 13 grapes. Okay. Not to mention, my husband is also extremely fearful of heights. And we're on, our balcony isn't like a terrace. It's a balcony. It's cute and small. He was freaking out. I actually grew up in a building when I was little, so I'm not afraid of heights. But my dear love, I felt so bad and terrible. And mind you, everyone is out on the balcony surrounding us, which was good. Okay, there was people we could yell to, but there was so much noise surrounding the fireworks. Like Peru celebrates the new year like 4th of July here in America. So we had to wait like 10, 15 minutes for all that to settle down. His anxiety was through the roof. I was like besides myself. Okay, so apologetic, but also like, trying to make light of the situation. Like, hey, if there was anybody else going to be stuck on a balcony with, what did you want it to be, your wife? He's looking at me like, don't talk to me right. Felt like, at least I did. It was just kind of like karma a little bit because we were critiquing a couple that was a few floors down from us that we could see from our couch window because majority of our building is Airbnb. So we noticed, a couple of units that had new people coming in and out. And there was this new couple in this one unit that we noticed, was there for the evening. And the guy looked native, so probably a local, person. And there was a woman with him and we could definitely tell that I think she was also working that night. And she did not really care about what she looked like or who saw her, noticed her on that balcony because she took her dress and slid it right up. And you could see everything, like all the outlines of your undergarments, like it's all there to see. And so we were just like peeking over and like, whoa, that's crazy. And sure enough, those were the only people left on the balconies after those 10 minutes had passed that we could be in range with to yell to say, hey, come help us. And so the guy quickly went inside, put his shirt on, came back out, and Pedro was yelling, we're locked out. Poor guy. He was so embarrassed, and I felt so bad. And luckily, okay, full circle moment that we had a digital lock on our front door because had that lock not have been there and we not locked, well, I locked ourselves out the first time, we would have had to call a locksmith. And do you know how long that would have taken to wait for on New Year's Eve at 12:15 at night? Forever. Okay. So thank God that happened. And we were able to yell to him our apartment number, the code, which of course we put a new code in afterwards, which is super easy to do. So he came up, and within 10 minutes after that, we were off of our balcony. Thank God. Like, whew. But you know what we did? Pedro was so thankful that he gave the guy our bottle of champagne. And I was like, "Are you sure? Because I wanted to drink it." And he was like, "He saved our asses. So, yes, he will have this and he will enjoy it with his little lady friend over there." So we did. We gave him our bottle of champagne. We didn't even have champagne on New Year's, but we were back inside the coziness of our apartment. And that is how we rung in the new year, you guys. So I couldn't believe it happened. I will never again do that. But, in hindsight, who else would you want to be stuck on a balcony with if it's not your spouse? Maybe your best friend. Okay. Um, but yeah, so that took place. We couldn't believe it. We were so thankful about it. I was kind of laughing about it in the moment. He's now laughing about it now. It wasn't funny to him then, but it reminded me how you can, think the worst of something when you're in it, or try to be solution based and think about what can you do now. Okay. And what can you be grateful for that took place already that's going to help you at this point in time? And so it just reminded me how so many things we don't understand why they're happening, but then we realize later on, oh, it needed to happen so that this could happen, and that it's made my life easier now because of it. So that was a really cool moment to have. Um, towards the end of our trip. And then, of course, we went to this really cute shopping district to get some of our favorite little gifts for our favorite people back home, and had our last ceviche, had our last churro, had our last coffee, and all the things that we were really soaking up in Peru together. Our last walk, our last sunset. And, now we are packing everything up. We're getting our place ready so that it can be, taken photos of, and, can go up on Airbnb afterwards. And we get to the airport now, and we have an overnight flight back to Miami. So we get to the airport, and it is about 8:15 in the evening because our flight's around 12:45. So we get to the airport. Okay, it's our three luggages, our carry-ons, the stroller, the car seat, the baby, the dog, us two adults. Like, it's the whole kit and caboodle. Okay, once we have another kid or two, it's going to be the Brady Bunch traveling. And the guy at the American Airlines counter first, we put up the dog, our sweet Autumn, and he opens her file, and he looks at the file, and he goes, "Has she been dewormed within the last 48 hours?" That was not a Spanish accent, but we're going to act like it was. And I just looked at him like deer in headlights. Like, what do you mean? So you guys, the last part of our trip was for the freaking books. Never in a million years did I think this would ever happen to us, but it certainly did. And I realized that we're not the only ones that it happened to. So apparently, and we were not aware, my vet did not tell us nothing, but your dog had to be dewormed before you leave the country of Peru, even if it's an American dog. So basically, he said to us to go find a vet and come back when she had a dewormer. Like, leave the airport, go get the dog dewormed, and come back. And we just looked at him like, "Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. What?" And so, yes, that's exactly what he meant. Pedro left with Autumn to go find a nearby vet around the Lima airport at around 8:45 at night. He came back an hour later. He had to stop at three vet locations to find one that was open. He presented the certificate at the next ticket counter and told them the whole story, what we needed for her to fly. And the woman now was scrutinizing our paperwork again. And I was like, "Watch, she's gonna find something. I just have a feeling, like, I don't like this look on her face or her energy." And sure enough, she's like, "Is the dog microchipped?" And I just was like, "What does that have to do with her flying?" We were told we needed a dewormer. Well, she said, if the dog is not microchipped, the dog is not flying. And we just, like, the steam coming out of our ears, and like the hopelessness, because now the time has erased of the extra time that we have to get this solved. And so basically, they didn't tell us that beforehand when he left the first time to get to the vet. So we had to leave our dog in Peru. And thank God we were in a country that, we have family and know people. Otherwise, we would have missed our flights. and we would have stayed back to stay with our dog if we were in any other country. Well, we called Pedro's dad, and he came and picked her up at the airport because we couldn't fly back with her. And it was really hard. Like, I thinking about it is like, woof. Yeah. And so my sweet baby girl Autumn was left in Peru. And the very next day, when we landed in the morning, we checked in on her and got her to a vet. We had to get her microchipped there. The house is feeling so weird without the doggy. Like, your home is that they're part of your home. And one of my children was not with me. And so we were trying to figure out, how can we do this? We're calling the airline. They said, send an email. Pedro literally got on the next flight the very next day and flew back to Peru to go get our girl. And it took him 2 days to get back. When I saw Autumn, she has not left my sight ever since. She has been my baby. She's been sleeping with me. She has like gained so much respect in this house because of how bad we all feel. And I just can't believe that that happened to us. So, food for thought: if you're traveling with a pet, do yourself a favor and look up the requirements of what you're going to need to travel back with your pet, not just to go to the specific country. So, you guys, I would have loved to have had Pedro with me on this episode to share all the things that took place. I'm sure I left a few things out, but I tried to include every single thing that was important to us, that meant something to us, that I think would have been fun to share with you guys. And I can't wait for us to go back and continue to explore more of the beautiful country of Peru. And I will also have our apartment in the show notes, and you guys can go check out if ever you're planning a trip to Peru and need a place to stay. The building we have, it's mainly for Airbnb, so it's a super popular place. They have beautiful amenities. It's brand new, best views, all of that good stuff. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I hope you took something away from it. I hope you learned something about Peru as well. I will say that the people there, they're very nice. They have a love for their country. They are hard workers. They're hardworking people. They care about ensuring that you have a good time, but you also have to be aware of yourself, know your surroundings, know where you should walk, know where you shouldn't walk. The area that we were staying in is highly surveillanced, so that's very important. The time of day and night that you're walking around, things like that you would do anyways, okay, no matter where you are. So with that, you guys, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait to be here with you all next week.